June 12, 2009, a rainy morning in Maya City, Japan, near the shadow of Mount Ichiya. The parking area, nestled in an isolated stretch of forest, was surrounded by 4 large manholes, now brimming with water from days of relentless downpour. Workers had arrived early, tasked with draining the overflowing manholes. As they worked, the unexpected happened. One of the pumps abruptly stopped, its flow blocked by something lodged deep within the murky water. Curious and cautious, a worker descended into the manhole to investigate. What he found would haunt him forever. Submerged in the water lay the lifeless body of a woman. Shock and horror rippled through the team as they scrambled to alert the authorities. When the police arrived, they quickly assessed the scene. The woman appeared to be in her late 20s, her stillness telling the grim story of her demise. A deep wound on her head suggested foul play, and the secluded location only deepened the mystery. How had she ended up in such an isolated spot surrounded by dense forest with no cameras, no witnesses, and only the occasional passing truck? The victim was dressed in a blue uniform, seemingly from a local glass manufacturing company. As her body was taken for a post-mortem examination, investigators scoured the area for clues. By afternoon, as they drained the remaining water, the manhole and its surroundings began to yield chilling evidence. A stick, an iron hammer, and a car key, each item laced with ominous implications. The key had a tuft of brown hair attached, a grim marker of a possible struggle. Nearby, hidden in the underbrush, police found a blood-stained glove and a pair of women's shoes. Each discovery tightened the noose of suspicion, pointing to a brutal crime. But the big question remained. Who was the woman, and what twisted path had led her to this watery grave? The case was quickly shaping up to be a labyrinth of secrets waiting to be unraveled. There was no phone at the scene, no identification, no immediate clues, just a grim trail of evidence pointing to a chilling crime. The police suspected that the killer had used the hammer found nearby to attack the woman, taken all her belongings, and vanished into the night. While investigators worked to uncover the victim's identity, doctors began the post-mortem examination. The report revealed horrifying details. The woman had fought desperately for her life. She had sustained a blow to the head that rendered her unconscious, but not for long. Still alive, she was thrown into the water-filled manhole, where she ultimately drowned. Her death was estimated to have occurred around 8 p.m. on June 11th. The police collected her DNA and began cross-referencing it with their database. After a tense wait, they finally identified her. Gawa Teneko, a young woman who had been reported missing just days earlier. Her mother had filed the missing persons report, recounting how Gawa left home on the morning of June 10th for work but never returned. When Gawa failed to call or come home that night, her mother assumed she was working late, but by the following morning, when Gawa's office called to report that she hadn't shown up, panic set in. The missing persons report was filed shortly after. Born and raised in Nagama City, Gawa Teneko was known for her intelligence and independence. A bright student, she had always preferred living life on her own terms. At 21, she joined a glass manufacturing company where she worked diligently for 7 years, earning a reputation for training new hires. By 2009, she had even purchased her own car to commute to work. On June 10th, the day of her disappearance, Gawa's car broke down unexpectedly, leaving her running late. She asked her mother to drop her at work, promising to take a taxi home. That promise would never be fulfilled. The investigation painted a dark picture of her final hours. On her way home from work, Gawa was attacked. The blow to her head came from the hammer found near the manhole. The killer, likely in a panic, threw her into the waterlogged drain and fled. The most haunting detail? Gawa had regained consciousness inside the manhole. Trapped and disoriented in the rising water from the heavy rains, she had no way to escape. When the police delivered the devastating news to Gawa's mother, she broke down in grief. She described Gawa as a hard-working and disciplined woman, someone who had built her life through sheer determination. Gawa lived simply, traveling only between work and home, never indulging in unnecessary distractions. Her life was one of quiet ambition, until it was tragically cut short. As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that solving Gawa's murder would require piecing together every fragment of her routine and retracing her final steps. Somewhere in the gaps of her otherwise orderly life lay the key to unmasking her killer. The dirty, rain-swollen water rose relentlessly, washing over her as she fought desperately to survive. Trapped and weakened, she clawed for air and hope, but the heavy flow overwhelmed her. By 8 p.m. on the stormy night of June 11th, Gawa Teneko's struggle ended, the rising waters claiming her life. The following morning, her lifeless body was discovered in the manhole, a grim revelation that left the city shaken. The police wasted no time, heading straight to Gawa's workplace, the glass manufacturing company where she had worked diligently for 7 years. The company's director spoke highly of her, describing her as a standout employee who went above and beyond, often training new recruits and rarely missing a day of work. Gawa's absence on June 11th had raised immediate concerns. This was entirely out of character for someone so dependable. As investigators dug deeper, a colleague came forward with an intriguing lead. She recalled seeing Gawa on the evening of June 10th, just before she disappeared. The colleague had invited Gawa to step out together, but Gawa declined, appearing distracted and fixated on her phone, as though she was waiting for something or someone. Sensing her preoccupation, the colleague didn't press further and left her alone. The police knew Gawa's phone could be a critical piece of evidence, but it was missing from the crime scene. They turned to CCTV footage instead. The grainy video showed Gawa leaving the office alone that evening, looking tense and preoccupied. After that, her trail went cold. Meanwhile, Gawa's mother reached out to the police with a puzzling detail. On the day Gawa disappeared, she had called Gawa's best friend, Nami, hoping she might know something. Nami had already tried calling Gawa earlier, but what she revealed added a chilling twist. Someone else had answered Gawa's phone. Nami described the unsettling call in detail. The man on the other end spoke in a curt, almost hostile tone. When she asked about Gawa's whereabouts, he snapped, "I'm in a meeting," and hung up abruptly. Confused and uneasy, Nami checked the number again. It was definitely Gawa's. This revelation sparked a new theory for the investigators. Was Gawa involved in a secret relationship? The idea seemed plausible, especially after her mother admitted that Gawa had always been fiercely private and independent. The police pressed forward, uncovering a startling truth. Gawa had been discreetly involved with a man named Maruto Bain, one of her co-workers at the manufacturing company. Maruto Bain wasn't just any colleague. He was 12 years older than Gawa, married and a father of 2. Neighbors painted a picture of a devoted family man who spent weekends taking his family on riverside picnics or other outings. To everyone around him, Maruto appeared to be a man with no skeletons in his closet. But this new information cast him in a far more sinister light. Was Maruto hiding a double life? Could he be connected to Gawa's tragic death? The police now faced a daunting task, unraveling the mystery of Gawa's final hours and determining if Maruto Bain was the key to understanding how her life ended in the dark waters of that manhole. He had always been the picture of charm, a kind, respectful man, seemingly devoted to his family. But behind Maruto Bain's carefully constructed facade, the police suspected a darker truth. He had been hiding an affair with Gawa Teneko from his unsuspecting wife. Despite the shock of Gawa's death, Maruto's routine remained unnervingly normal. He continued showing up to work as if nothing had happened, his calm demeanor raising red flags for investigators. When the police informed Gawa's mother about her daughter's secret relationship with Maruto, she was devastated. She refused to believe it, describing Gawa as a reserved and shy woman who avoided close relationships. The revelation shattered her, not only because of her daughter's tragic death, but also because she couldn't fathom Gawa keeping such a significant secret from her. Determined to dig deeper, the police returned to the glass manufacturing company. This time, a co-worker came forward with startling insights. According to the employee, Gawa and Maruto often worked closely, spending long hours together in private. Initially, their interactions seemed strictly professional, but over time, rumors began to swirl. They were frequently seen leaving work together, and one incident stood out. Someone had spotted them holding hands, their demeanor unmistakably that of a couple. The plot thickened when another woman, Yuna, who identified herself as Gawa's best friend, approached the investigators. Yuna revealed that Gawa had confided everything to her, including her relationship with Maruto. According to Yuna, Gawa had fallen for him without knowing he was married with children. When the truth came to light, it led to a bitter confrontation. Yuna further disclosed a troubling pattern in their relationship. Maruto had been physically abusive during their arguments, striking Gawa in fits of rage before apologizing profusely. Gawa, torn between her feelings and the abuse, had repeatedly forgiven him. However, shortly before her disappearance, Gawa had told Yuna she was ready to break things off for good. Yuna had urged her to approach the matter carefully, but tragically Gawa vanished the very next day. When her body was discovered on June 12th, Yuna became convinced that Maruto was involved. As the pieces of the puzzle began to fit, the police still lacked hard evidence to tie Maruto directly to the crime. Then a potential lead emerged. 2 days after Gawa's body was found, Maruto took his car to a mechanic for repairs. The mechanic, a regular acquaintance, noted that Maruto often visited with a woman believed to be his girlfriend. But this time, Maruto arrived alone, his demeanor unusually tense. The timing was suspicious, but it wasn't enough to build a solid case. The investigation pressed on, the weight of suspicion growing heavier around Maruto. His indifferent behavior, Gawa's confidences to Yuna, and the emerging timeline all pointed toward him. Yet without irrefutable evidence, the mystery of Gawa's tragic end remained shrouded in uncertainty. The police were left to ask the haunting question: how far would a man go to protect his secrets? The police, however, began to piece together a much darker story. They speculated that on the evening of June 10th, when Gawa was headed home, Maruto must have driven her to a secluded spot. There, a violent argument erupted between them. In a blind fury, Maruto grabbed a hammer and struck her. In a desperate attempt to escape, Gawa likely tried to flee toward the passenger side window, but the hammer may have shattered the glass as she struggled. Once Maruto overpowered her, he struck her in the head, rendering her unconscious. Without hesitation, he dragged her lifeless body and threw it into the manhole to dispose of it, leaving the hammer behind. He then drove to the mechanic, pretending nothing was wrong, and had the car repaired. The investigation soon took a crucial turn. A search of Maruto's car revealed bloodstains on the passenger seat and the brake pedal. DNA testing confirmed that the blood belonged to Gawa. This irrefutable evidence led to Maruto's arrest. Meanwhile, the police confronted his wife with the truth about his affair. She was shattered. She had believed her husband was a devoted man, a loving father who would never betray her. When questioned by the police, Maruto stuck to his story. He vehemently denied any romantic relationship with Gawa, claiming they were simply good friends. He insisted that the rumors circulating at work were baseless. As for the night of June 10th, he said he was driving Gawa home when, for reasons he couldn't explain, she became enraged. She demanded he pull over, and when he did, she stormed out of the car without a word. He claimed to have no idea what happened to her after that. The police then pressed him about the broken side mirror and window. Maruto's response was baffling. He suggested almost casually that someone jealous of him might have taken out their frustration on his car. The more Maruto spoke, the more his story unraveled. Every explanation seemed more implausible than the last, but with each passing moment the walls were closing in on him. Gawa's mother's defense of Maruto took an unexpected turn. She claimed that the blood found in Maruto's car didn't belong to Gawa from the night of the crime, but was actually from an old incident. According to her, Gawa had once helped her change a flat tire, during which she had stepped on something sharp, causing a minor injury and bleeding. She insisted that the blood in the car came from that accident, not from any violent altercation. Despite this explanation, Maruto's responses to police questioning were always prepared and evasive, making it nearly impossible for investigators to pin him down with concrete evidence. The case began to stall, with no clear link between Maruto and the crime, causing frustration for everyone involved. However, the wheels of justice were still turning. Despite this explanation, Maruto's responses to police questioning were always prepared and evasive, making it nearly impossible for investigators to pin him down with concrete evidence. The case began to stall, with no clear link between Maruto and the crime, causing frustration for everyone involved. On November 4, 2010, Maruto was formally charged with murder and concealing a body. But even then, he maintained his innocence, adamantly claiming he had never been romantically involved with Gawa. He continued to deny any wrongdoing, even as the evidence mounted against him. The police, however, uncovered damning proof from Maruto's email history, which clearly indicated his affair with Gawa. The investigation also revealed a crucial piece of testimony. On the night of June 10th, a truck driver had reported seeing Maruto's car at the crime scene. While the driver couldn't make out any specifics due to the darkness, he confirmed that the car was indeed parked there. Additionally, police found records of threats Maruto had made against Gawa after a heated argument, revealing his violent tendencies and potential motive. Even more incriminating was the discovery of Gawa's blood on Maruto's clothes. Shortly after the murder, Maruto had taken his car in for repairs, which further tied him to the crime scene. The court, after months of investigation and deliberation, reached its verdict on December 2, 2010. Maruto was sentenced to 17 years in prison, not life, but a substantial sentence for his horrific crime. That's where this case ends, but I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. If this is your first time on the channel, don't forget to subscribe. If you enjoyed the video, please like and share. Stay tuned for another intriguing case next time.